Uh, Good morning, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. We shall now rise for the TFJ Udaya, MNI, the Africa Development Bank.
Concerning, I want to thank the the Social Democratic Party, what exactly your plans are and how viable you are likely to be able to achieve your objectives. Or you'll be free to canvass your views, ask questions that you deem fit, and of course reflect on whatever you have had here and see whether it will lead towards a better Nigerian society. Thank everybody for coming. Thank you very much.
Please, another resounding round of applause for the DG. The DG dream for NIPSS is as tall as he is. So I hope we'll be able to catch up with him to make a lasting impact on the development of NIPSS and the nation at large. At this junction, we are going to take citation of our distinguished guest of honor, and it is my pleasure to invite my colleague, Mrs. Sandra Abo, Deputy Director, Courses, NIPSS, to take the citation of our distinguished guest and his deputy.
Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, Your Excellency, permit me to stand on the already established protocol. I need somebody to please help me with this. I'm here this morning to take the citation on Prince Adewole Adebayo, the Social Democratic Party presidential candidate. Prince Adebayo was born 51 years ago on 8th January 1972 in Ondo City, Ondo State. He is a descendant of Osemawe Odunla, grandson of Osemawe Lamela, and direct descendant of Alaafin Onigbogi and Alaafin Songo of Oyo Ile, Elenkpe, Sunupe, and Oba of Benin. After completing his primary school in Ondo, he attended St. Joseph's College, Ondo, for his secondary education. He then proceeded to the prestigious Obafemi Awolowo University, OAU, Ile-Ife, where he graduated with honors degree in law. In OAU, not only did he return a successful law program, but also participated in national activism as a Nigerian student leader. He was called to the Nigerian bar in 2000 after completing and passing his bar examinations from the Nigerian Law School, Lagos. In 2002, shortly after his return to Lagos, following his NYSC in Kogi State, he joined the Tunji Abayomi law firm, where he quickly rose through the ranks. Adebayo later acquired Masters of Law at the University of Jos. He participated in the activities of Nigerian Labour Congress as a comrade, and he made friends across Nigeria who admire him for his strength of character, integrity, and zeal. He later left the law firm of Tunji Abayomi for Abuja, where he established his personal law firm, Adewole, Adebayo & Co., House of Law. As a principal solicitor, he came into prominence as a leader in his professional field, while also investing in the future young people by employing core members who are lawyers and teaching them. With seasoned lawyers as associates and partners, he has groomed many brilliant lawyers over the years. The sheer breadth of Adebayo's knowledge, his broad mind, the clarity of his analysis, and his competence soon brought him to the national limelight, and Adebayo became known as a young man who handles every difficult task with aplomb. The same qualities that had made him to succeed in Nigeria's legal circles eventually took him to international limelight, as many international businesses and conglomerates began to entrust him with the legal fate of their firms. A member of the International Bar Association, Adebayo later returned to school in the United States of America, completing the New York bar exams in flying colors. Today, his practice cuts across all the continents of the world. Prince Adebayo is licensed in California, New York, and courts of the United States. He has substantial law practice in UK, Europe, and Australia. He is a fellow Chartered Institute of Arbitration in Nigeria, Singapore, and the United Kingdom. Adebayo is a chairman, Blueprint Global Group, Washington, D.C., board advisor of U.S. Black Chambers of Commerce, board advisor, National Black Chambers of Commerce, USA. He is also president and board chairman of several corporations in the United States, Nigeria, and of course, East Africa. A farmer and chairman of Agbede Agri Projects. He is the chairman of phytochemicals producers of saline drugs for the treatment of sickle cell anemia in India and Nigeria. As the chairman of Africa Dialogue Mission, ADM, Adebayo was in 2000 appointed by the United Nations and ECOWAS as Commissioner on the Truth and Reconciliation Commission in Liberia. The SDP presidential candidate is a typical grassrooter who has contributed immensely to the development and empowerment of youth by retooling, nurturing, and creating employment, particularly in his immediate community and the nation at large. Adewole Adebayo is a recipient of many awards in recognition of his service to his state, community, and to humanity. In March 2021, he was recognized by the Ondo State government as the indigene who pays the highest personal income to the Ondo State government. In November 26, 2021, he was bestowed with the award of the Best Media Proprietor of the Year by the Nigerian Union of Journalists, NUJ. Your Excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I present to you the presidential candidate of the Social Democratic Party, Prince Adewole Adebayo, to present the vision and mission of the SDP. Please give him a big round of applause.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Sandra Otaru. The presidential aspirant came with an entourage of his party faithfuls. We have Dr. Olu Ogunloye, who is the SDP National Secretary. Please, a round of applause for him. We also have Hajia Sa'adatu Abdullahi, the SDP National Women Leader. There is also Alhaji Abubakar Dogara, the SDP Plateau State Chairman. There is Hajia Khadijat Lamidi Okunu, the Deputy DG Presidential Campaign Committee. There is also Senator Ugochukwu Uba, who is a member of the Presidential Committee. Professor Femi Olufimilade is the Director of Research. Chief Godwin Osigbemu is also a member of the Presidential Campaign Committee. And Hajia Natu Mela. Alhaji Abdullah Kani is the National Vice Chairman, North Central. And Pastor Ade Alabi. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, you are welcome. We also welcome our audience who are joining us virtually. Good morning. Okay. So at this point, let me invite the moderator of this program, Professor Fumi Paramalam, MNI, Director of Studies, to invite our special guest to make his vision statement. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The Director General, sir, having firmly established the protocol, permit me to go straight to business. And I would like to begin by expressing our profound appreciation on behalf of the National Institute for Policy and Strategic Studies, which is the apex policy think tank directly under the presidency, well situated to provide policy advice to government and a veritable platform for an engagement such as this. I would like to say that before the presidential candidate begins to address us, we are very grateful and honored for the caliber of people who are gathered here and also those online. We apologize for starting late. It's not in our character to do so. But now that we have started, we will get straight down to business. And let me establish some ground rules. Ab initio, the Director General has established the fact that the National Institute is a place where we operate by the policy of non-attribution. And simply that means that nothing said here can be held against that person. So people should feel free to have a free, fair, and frank discussion, which is what we hope to have here today. That said, I will now call on the presidential candidate in the person of Mr. Adebayo Adewole Ebenezer to please present to the House his vision and mission statement. Thank you very much, sir. You are highly welcome.
Thank you very much, the Director General of the Institute, other members of the management of the Institute, leaders of the Social Democratic Party, eminent personalities, Nigeria, those who are in the hall with us, and those who are online. I would want to show the gratitude of the Social Democratic Party to you all for taking time to join us. And I pay tribute to this institute for the work it has done for Nigeria since 1979 when it was established. This institute has lived up to its expectation, has produced enough to make Nigeria become #1 in every positive sphere in the world. And every sector in Nigeria, especially the public sector, has benefited immensely from the work done by the management here over the years and by many of the course attendants. Every family, including mine, has many MNI around. When the notice went out yesterday, 3 of my uncles said, "Oh, you are going to my school." So I feel at home here, and I'm very happy that there has been a major improvement. Last time I was here, it was in the late 90s. And it's a good thing that we have this wonderful auditorium, and I pray and hope that better things will come to the Institute. And when it pleases God and Nigerian people to put us in authority, this Institute will play a major role in deciding the future of the country and will make major investment and expand participation at the sessions of the Institute. So I thank you all. The Social Democratic Party is a fairly old party by Nigerian standards because of the mortality rate of political parties in this country. Ours was set up through a process. On December 1, 1989, was set up, and one of the thinkers, actually is even here in the hall with us, who was on the faculty of the Center for Democratic Study, Senator Ogoshukwuba, who is a member of our party and director of finance of our campaign, and who was also a commissioner under the SDP in Anambra State in 1992 and 93. So the idea of the Social Democratic Party is following the tradition of Social Democrats all over the world.
you will see that Social Democrats are usually the majority party in Europe. The party have ruled longest in Germany after the Second World War. And the idea of introducing social democratic principles in Nigeria, you will recall that after the political bureau and all the troubles that went with formation of political parties, the government at that time thought that ideologically founded parties will be the solution to Nigeria's problems. And the political parties should be identified by their ideas, not the geography of the founder or the personality of those who are constituting the leadership. It should be that people choose what party to join based on the ideas of the things that appeal to them in the ideals portrayed by the party. So at that time, two political parties were formed. The Social Democratic Party, which is our party, which was given an ideological direction to be a little to the left. And another one was formed the National Republican Convention, NRC, which was to try to find ideas on the right side of the divide. It's the same political party that successfully produced the president-elect, Chief Moshood Kashimawo Adewole Abiola, MK Abiola, and won majority of the seats in the local government elections in Nigeria, won most of the state elections, won most of the houses of assembly election, national assembly election as well. But in the end, the June 12 election, as history records, was annulled, and the party was proscribed. And after 1999, different political parties came up and we started thinking of the ideas. But there were many problems associated with these political parties. And many people thought maybe we should go back to that idea of having an ideological political party, and the Social Democratic Party was revived. Now, in this presidential election cycle, or in this general election cycle, we have governorship candidates in every state where there is a vacancy. We have contesting 109 Senate seats. We are contesting 360 House of Representative seats. And we are contesting all the Houses of Assembly. And of course, I'm the candidate, together with my colleague Yusuf Buhari. We are contesting for the presidency. And the basis on which we are contesting is to pursue the ideas that were initiated and Nigerians accepted in the year 1993, which was farewell to poverty. And our manifesto at that time in Nigeria is that poverty has gotten worse. Just as we have demographically increased quantitatively, so has poverty increased quantitatively and qualitatively, in the sense that not only do we have more people on the horizontal line being poorer, you also have people on the vertical line being sunk deeper into poverty. And attendant to poverty is insecurity, because they kind of like to travel in company. So this election cycle, we've emphasized farewell to poverty and insecurity. And the manifesto of the Social Democratic Party is one which answers to every developmental challenge facing Nigeria. And today, we are going to start discussing it by saying three basic foundational premises. One is that the manifesto of the Social Democratic Party is not an optional manifesto. It is not a manifesto which you can say, okay, let me consider it. It is a constitutional mandate that is contained in chapter 2 of the Nigerian Constitution. That chapter is titled Fundamental Objectives and Directive Principles of State Policy. And it was adopted in 1977 at the Constituent Assembly, where, as part of the process of return to civil rule it was discovered that the purpose of government, what it is to be in government, was not known to many people who had access to power in the First Republic. And that the country itself is constantly being negotiated, and nobody knows what their responsibilities are, what their rights are. You can come into government and do whatever you like. There is no organizing principle. You will notice that, I don't want to travel too far back because I don't know how much time is allocated for this session, but if you see that many of the political cultures in the world are informed by their history, their anthropology, their sociology, and in some areas of their theology. So if you look at Europeans, the Age of Enlightenment, coming after the many years of rule by the church, informed the European mind. And the democracy, the governance, and all the politics that they do is not alien to their culture. It's actually confirmatory of their cultural belief. Now, if you study the Americans, you will see that a lot of French Enlightenment propositions are influencing them, especially arising from the French Revolution, and many of the ideas. And America had its own Bill of Rights, even before it had its own independence. So when you look at all of these political traditions, you will see that in our own tradition here, just as our language is alien to us, and we are struggling with it, so also is our architecture alien to us, so also is our dressing alien to us. Everything we do is alien. And on to capital, our system of government is alien to us. So that is why my journey to Jos is not complete, except I go and greet the Gwam Jos, even though I can do without greeting the chairman of Jos North or Jos South local government. But in our constitutional order, the chairman of the local government is senior to Gwam Jos. But in our culture and in reality, the pragmatic realism that we have, the Gwam Jos is the person that if I don't visit, people will say I have not properly come to these parts. So this chapter 2 was meant to even define who is a citizen, what are the rights of a citizen, what is a government, what are the principles around which Nigeria is formed, what are, if we are forming a government, what are the things the government should pursue. Unfortunately, because of the controversy that arose from the majority and the minority at the Constitutional Assembly, and the military government thought that the minority was right, in order to assuage the majority, they put a clause in the Constitution that this chapter of many of the rights under it will not be justiciable. However, you cannot legitimately take an oath of office in Nigeria to be president or governor without subscribing to the oath to the extent of saying, among other things, that you will execute and observe and respect and observe this chapter 2 of the Constitution. It means, therefore, that it is very easy in Nigeria to be a lawbreaker, because immediately you finish taking that oath, your next budget will be in violation of that chapter 2. So what we are trying to do in the Social Democratic Party is to ensure that our manifesto is in conformity. And we're not doing this just because we are nice people. We are doing it because it is embedded in the Constitution that every political party must conform their manifesto to chapter 2 of the Constitution. So in other words, if we were to follow the law and be constitutional, it would mean that the manifesto of most political parties will be almost the same, except now that the programs, plans, and policies to execute this manifesto might differ from political party to the other. For example, we have an obligation to ensure full employment. So in the Social Democratic Party, we believe in social investment. We believe that the government must intervene. We believe that we must build institutions. In order to create full employment, we must invest in education. We must invest in quality education. And we must invest in quantitative education as well. That is to say, you must have 0 child out of school. You must have access to primary health care, secondary health care, and health care includes nutrition, which means you must intervene in ensuring that your citizens have nutrition. You must investigate the situation of people who are without proper housing. So you must give them sound housing and habitat. So by the time you do all these investments, you can now work towards full employment. So, but another person who is a market player or a market economist might say, well, they will invest in creating market rules and ultimately maybe employment will be generated. But in the end, both sides of the divide must subscribe to full employment because it is guaranteed under our Constitution. So when I was ruminating about this dialogue at NIPSS, I came up with the idea that maybe the departure point will be to separate what we have been doing before with what we need to do. And that's why I came up with the notion that we must have critical transitions from apologetics of nationhood to building an elite consensus around fundamental objectives and directive principles of state policy. Yes, because if you look at all the praises are heaped on NIPSS, same can be said about other institutions, the War College, ASCON, and all of that. But you will see that we all agree, including MNIs, that progressively it's as if our public institutions are weaker than before. It's as if efficiency in the public services is weaker than before. It's as if every other indication of development is weak. And the summary of that is that everything we have built, including fantastic institutions like this that have done wonderful work, and our university, have been apologetics, defenders of status quo. And you are apologetic in the sense that we try to advocate that what we are doing is just the best we can do. We give defensive excuses as to why we haven't achieved major, even basic milestones. We interrogate and criticize those who want to change the status quo. We also recruit people to join the status quo. And that I believe that the elite of Nigeria, majority of whom have to pass through this institution if they want to be the administrative cadre, this is where the mandarins of Nigeria are trained. They must join with the SDP in forming a consensus that the solution to Nigeria's problem is to implement Chapter 2 of the Constitution, to have our fundamental objectives and directive principle to become non-negotiable as it is prescribed in the Constitution, so that we will do the following. We will invest in eradication of poverty because we have all it takes in terms of material and human resources to do that, and there should be no apologetics regarding that. Second, that we can secure every square inch of our land, not only in terms of territorial integrity, but to secure the psychology of our people. Because if you look at the psychology of our people, it is transiting from the psychology of an oppressed people to the psychiatry of depressed people. Because of what you see, if you see some video recently of people stripping naked in the bank because they are fighting over 2,000 naira, and which they want to collect from their own account. So in putting all of this together, the Social Democratic Party has the idea that by the time we finish implementing our manifesto, which you can interrogate me on, in this country, every child will be in school. Every child who is in school will finish and they will be employable. Every person willing to work will have full employment. We will invest in our highways. We will invest in infrastructure. And we will unite our people together. And we will have a productive economy that is not dependent on a few elite taking hold of the resources and doing everything possible to keep the others at bay and to explain away failure as mere challenges. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Prince Adewole Adebayo, for laying out for us, for this august and distinguished audience, including the Nigerian general public, your manifesto in terms of your vision and mission statement. This is how we are going to proceed henceforth. We will ask panelists to engage with you on the basis of the manifesto you have laid out, and you have told us very clearly that this is rooted in an ideological foundation. And they will engage with you for 2 minutes each on critical issue areas that are agitating the minds of Nigerians. You would agree with me that issues such as insecurity, the economy, and building national cohesion and unity are uppermost in the minds of the general public. They will also engage with you around 7 priority critical sectors as focal areas of the Nigerian public. They are agriculture, power and energy, education, health, housing, and transportation. I noted when I went online, in looking at your manifesto, that you have a 4-point cardinal program that revolves around energy supply, job creation, food security, and war on corruption. Hopefully you will be able to touch on some of these as the panelists engage with you. So we're asking each panelist to please go straight to the point. Within 2 minutes, you frame your question, and thereafter, the presidential candidate will have a maximum of 5 minutes to respond to each question, taking on board these key critical issue areas and priority sectors. I will begin straight away by going to Mr. Samson Omale of Silverbird, Jos. You have the floor. 2 minutes, please.
Thank you very much, Mom, and thank you very much, sir, for the very lucid presentation from your manifesto. One quick thing I want to say is that I'm really very excited that you talk so much about your manifesto being that of your party. What we've seen other candidates tell us is more about what they are going to do, not really connecting that with what their party stands for, their ideology. So we're having so many documents out there with what I'm going to do if I'm elected and all that. And I must thank you for, narrowing it down that, look, this is what your party stands for, and this is what we're going for. I think you should be commended for that. Having said that, I mean, looking at the key priority areas you've listed in your manifesto, and of course, manifesto of your party and all that, I like to look at it because it's connected. There's no how you will succeed in implementing these programs, policies, ideas around education, housing, transportation, and all of that if you don't have the right people in the right place. So I'm always very bothered about the leadership recruitment process, especially when governors are elected, presidents are elected, and then you have people who are literally oblivious, don't have the slightest ideas to how or what they're going to do, and of course to achieve some of these programs. So I want to find out, if elected, what is going to be, how you're going to engage in terms of recruiting your cabinet members. What will be your cardinal, focus? That's one. Number two, I also like you to talk to the effect around the rule of law. Because again, no country will succeed if we don't, of course, obey the rules and, of course, the issues around justice, fairness, and all of that. I also like you to speak on that. And finally, about the cost of governance. And this is something that a lot of the candidates, I haven't heard so much about them. I don't want to talk about insecurity and all of that, but looking at the cost of governance, which is humongous as we have it at the moment, I'd like you to, in practical ways, if elected, how are you going to provide leadership in that light in terms of cutting the cost of governance if elected as the president of Nigeria? Thank you.
Thank you, Sam Omale. Please, Prince, you have 5 minutes.
Thank you. Thank you for your kind words. With respect to leadership recruitment, I think that anyone who is elected president of Nigeria, especially me, should consider himself a very lucky person, because the country is awash with manpower. As I was approaching this hall, I passed through the research center of NIPSS, and I said, if I'm allowed to take over this building, I can solve all Nigeria's problems from there. And like I said, even in my own family alone, 3 MNIs sent me a text message yesterday just because I said I was coming to Kuru. But you will see that our neighboring countries, many of them will be even pleading to have an opportunity to send just 1 or 2 to come and attend courses here. So there is no shortage of manpower. What is wrong with Nigeria is what Ashebe recognized in 1982. The problem with Nigeria is leadership. If I would not have more than 55 ministers. The people I know who are qualified to be ministers, who will do fantastically well within my party, are over 500. People who, if I wasn't running for president, and they are running for president, I would say this one can be president. That's just talking to my party. And there's nothing that limits us to the party. I give an example of many Nigerians. I don't have much time here, but I meet Nigerians everywhere. Many universities all over the world, many banks, many institutions. So there is no shortage of manpower. The problem is, why is the leader recruiting his cabinet? What is his purpose? If you are recruiting people to come and help you cover up, then you will not recruit independent-minded people. If you are recruiting people to help you recover your campaign fund, you will tell you the kind of person you are recruiting. So that is the problem. It's not, I have enough people. In fact, in making lists of cabinet members, there are about 6,000 appointments that make up the presidency, including Director General of NIPSS. It's part of the presidency. In these 6,000 appointments, you will have minimum of 60,000 people from who you can select. That if this one has maybe a medical problem, this one has another personal problem, you can always replace. So there's no issue of leadership. You have to elect the president, because if the president is not capable of being improved upon, first, the president himself has to have a general knowledge and appreciation of the situation of the country, has to have a vision that can be sold, and has to have the character to take tough decisions in the interest of the country. So I think the problem is not issue of manpower. And everybody, if you randomly take this microphone and give to anybody who has come from SDP, they will talk exactly the way I'm talking. So it's not personal to me, it's something that is institutional. With respect to the rule of law, I was addressing the MBA yesterday. I was addressing the MBA day before yesterday, and I said, why are you calling me to come and talk about rule of law? The essence of rule of law is that no president should be able to promise it, and no president should be able to withdraw it. The rule of law is meant to be independent of the government of the day. So in a country where a president says, I will give you rule of law, you are already violating rule of law. The only thing I can promise as president is that I will be under the law. I will not be above the law. And that nobody who is serving under my warrant will be above the law. And that a constable can write a letter to me and say he's coming to my chamber, Federal Executive Council, because he wants to arrest Minister of Works. I will hand him over by myself. So in a country that has rule of law, the Prime Minister of Britain is afraid of a constable by the roadside. And that is what we need to have. And the reason why we haven't had that is because, and I said it during the debate, people say I should not be saying it again, but since the rule of NIPSS allowed me to say it here, the reason why you don't have rule of law is that you have criminals in government. So if a policeman is to do his job, half of those who are in government will be in jail first. And that is the problem why rule of law is undermined, but the quality of the policeman is undermined, the quality of training is undermined, the ability to live well and make important decisions is undermined. So that's basically, the cost of governance is not the problem of Nigeria, it's the cost of corruption. Many of our institutions are underfunded, and the revenue is also under-collected. So I will talk more about it in the next question.
Thank you very much for keeping to time. And thank you for responding to that question that came from the representative of the media on the panel. The panelists here are representing various constituencies, and the next person I will call upon is representing the civil society organizations. She is in the person of Hajia Fatima Suleiman, the Chief Executive Officer of Islamic Counseling Initiatives of Nigeria. Hajia, you have 2 minutes.
This SDP presidential candidate, you are welcome to Plateau. We are very amazed as civil society, and we love your smart manifestos, but we really want to know that you have a good development plan for our country at this time. We are going through a lot of hardship. For us in the civil society, there are a lot of policies we know by the government. For example, Section 14, subsection 2B, states the primary responsibility of the government in welfare and security of its people. We in the civil society are very interested to know if you should be the president of this country. Security is much tied to a lot of things like the economy, agriculture, and a lot of things. How will you, what is your development plan on security, looking at what is on ground, the issue of terrorism, kidnapping, and even the issue of policemen within our states? By statistics in 2018, we all know that one policeman mans about 680 people in this country. What is your development plan? Because we know the environment must be secure for us to do our businesses, our farmers to go to the farm, and also our miners. What is your development plan? Then in the area of education, we all know that education, a nation who does not invest in its people is heading for the rock. So lately we have had the issue of ASU, which has been a nibbling problem within our country. What is your plan on over 10 million of Nigerians who have lost school or who are out of school? What is your development plan on issues of ASU if you are elected? And then the issue of justice sector. Our prisons have been congested for a while. What is your development plan? Women and youth have formed a high population in the area of election. We don't want to be on the polling units forever. What is your plan in bringing them into governance? What are your plans in trying to implement policies like the Gender Equal Opportunity Bill that was thrown out, I think, some time ago by the legislative arm of government? What are your plans? Thank you very much.
Prince, what are your plans around inclusive governance, your development plan around insecurity, your development plan around ensuring that Nigerians have an enabling environment to operate? Over to you. You have 5 minutes.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Madam. First, the fact that we are asking a question about securing the geospatial space called Nigeria in an election year, it's a sad commentary. The essence of government is security. Government does not share its territory with anyone. And what has to be responsible for that, in order to cut it short, is that we have incumbents in position, but they have not formed a proper government. And there are 3 things we did. First, we cancelled the Native Authority Police for historical reasons. It has to do with mismanagement during politics. We have states that don't have, they have ability to pass laws, but they cannot enforce their laws. So we concentrated the management of law enforcement at the federal level. At that federal level, we're absent-minded. So what I would do basically is to arrange a situation in which, as the person directing the police, I make a lot of devolution, so that at the local government level, even without amending constitution, at the local government level, at the DPO, they are post more senior officers there, and they can take responsibility for what is going on there. At the state level, I make sure that the commissioner of police can do almost everything the IG of police can do, so that they can be effective at that level, or they have a better relationship with the police, with the governor. Because luckily for me, as president, as chairman of police council, the governors are also members of the police council. I will take care of the police from there. And I will ensure that the policemen actually are of high quality. And you can do that because you will know that the police are of high quality when your son, who has first class in political science, says, I'm joining the police. He's not saying he's going abroad. And to do that, you have to make the welfare of the police and the quality of respect that they get to be top-notch. And the statistic that we only have 1 policeman to police 680 people is not the only problem we have. Because you don't want to have 3 policemen asking 680 people to give them bribe on the way. So not just only improving in the number of policemen, you want to improve also in the quality of the policemen that you put in place. And to see that the security architecture is such that police takes as priority the defense of the people, taking care of the people, not protecting the government. Now, with respect to education, education is a constitutional right, and I've mentioned it in Chapter 2 of our Constitution. What we will do with education is to make sure we do three things. One, we put adequate funding in it. And that's why I said the cost of governance is not the problem in Nigeria. It's the cost of corruption, because almost every institution, including NIPSS, is underfunded. So why do you say the cost of governance then? So many areas of social intervention, the government is not taking care of them. If there are people who are hungry in Jos, it doesn't concern the governor, it will just walk past. Whereas if it's another place, it is the responsibility of the local government and the state government to see that people are well fed. So we are not investing enough. And that's because only about 7% of our revenue is recognized in our books. The rest is appropriated to people who sponsor politicians, others just wasted away like that. So we would invest in education. With respect to ASU, it's very easy to resolve that issue. First, we take politicians away from the governing council of the universities, make them independent. Second, we make sure that the trust fund is managed outside the government. The trust fund should not be in the Ministry of Education. Three, we put endowment fund for all the universities, and we ensure that everybody contributes to that. Now, the justice sector, the simple thing about justice is a professional sector. The third arm of government is the bench and the bar. It depends on the lawyers. What I can do is to make sure that we have an independent judiciary that is well funded and given its own money, and as the law enforcing arm of government to see that we enforce the law, the justice reform will come. With respect to women and youth, the Social Democratic Party has youth occupying most of our position. I'm also considered to be a youth in Nigeria, and I'm the one running for president. My VP is also a youth. And so we are already in that line. We will be a pace setter, not just youth, most of our chairmen are youth. Majority of the NWC of our party is youth. Our chairman is a youth. So we are well on our way with respect to that, and women are well respected in our party, and they play a major role. Thank you.
Thank you very much. A quick word to those of you who are online. I want you to know that this discussion will be opened up to the general audience at a certain point for 20 minutes. But please feel free to make use of your chat handle on the Zoom. We will be sure to harvest some of these even after the discussion. So quickly, thank you very much, Prince, for laying that out. I will now go to the next person on the list of panelists, who is Professor James Adegoke. He is a climate scientist from the University of Missouri in the United States of America. He's also the senior consultant and advisor in the Department of Climate Change and Green Growth in the African Development Bank based in Togo, Lomé. Sir, you have the floor for 2 minutes.
Thank you very much. We're delighted to be here today, sir. I work for the African Development Bank, but I don't officially represent the bank here. We're lucky that the president of the bank himself is a Nigerian, Dr. Akin Adeshina, and he has severally articulated his vision and his contribution to how we move the development agenda forward in Nigeria. I recall that in 2021, the president invited him. He was a keynote speaker at the ministerial midterm ministerial performance review retreat. And he outlined a very strong agenda there for what needs to be addressed. I would recommend that not just for the Labour Party,
but for everybody else to take a look again at what was outlined there. But I wear three caps here today, representing three constituencies: the climate community, the climate scientist has been indicated. I'm also a development expert, and I have lived and worked outside this country for the last 30 years. So I represent also wearing the hat of the diaspora. So very quickly, climate change, what's your plan? It's an existential threat for Nigeria. What's your plan for addressing climate change? We cannot drive development without energy. Energy is on your platform, sir, as one of your four main key areas of attention. But the world is moving towards energy transition. Nigeria itself is being pushed in that direction. How do we, sir, address energy transition in Nigeria? And lastly, what is your plan for mobilizing the immense wealth of experience and capacity that resides outside this country in the Nigerian diaspora? Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Professor Prince.
Thank you very much for your work for the bank and for your work for saving us from all the problems of climate calamity. There are three ways I think about climate, what I call climate policy or climate politics. Is the issue of equity. We have to understand climate equity because global warming, depleting ozone layer, CO2, they are all the anthropomorphic part of it. Because there are arguments and I don't want to go into that. The anthropomorphic part of it, the human causation part of it, is the work of industrial revolution. The industrialized world of the North account for most of the emissions. But all of us now have to contribute to the remission. So the first thing is to make sure that climate discussions and arrangement recognize the fact that the pollutants have to compensate those of us who are having to manage the situation with them. Because in many of the options we are taking today, countries have to voluntarily forego some of their developmental opportunities in order to save the planet. And those who have taken advantage of coal, of other things in the past, cannot just say, because we broke the China, we have to both pay for it at the same price. I don't agree. Second is to look at climate opportunities. Because it's also the climate economy allows you to turn around. And in developing our economy, we should not assume that we're in the 19th century anymore. So we should take advantage of green technology, science, engineering, maths, and all of the other technological advancement allow us now to direct our economy. For example, every building, every institution that I own, the first thing you will see before you even see furniture are solar panels. Because I like to generate efficient energy, clean energy. So I'm highly interested in that. And we are going to lose some jobs in the area of not being able to exploit our coal and other heavy pollutants, but our people are well primed to be trained in the new area. So I believe that we can redirect our economy and ensure that we do all we can to see that we are in the avant-garde of green technology and green economy. So that's what area I will be. The third area that I want to emphasize on that is that we have transition. Luckily, we are more of a gas country than a crude oil country. So gas is the bridge between the world we dream of and the world we are in now. And everything is well primed for us. Our gas reserve makes, if we just exploit our gas reserve, up to 10%. By the time we get to 10% of our gas reserve, we will be ahead of the USA in GDP size. So we are well equipped for that. So that is the way I'm looking at it, that we cannot say we're not involved in it, we are involved in it, but climate equity is very important. Climate economy, to see it as an opportunity, is very important. With respect to energy transition, we ourselves should do the transition ahead of those who are our partners. And another thing I want to say about crude oil and all of that, don't worry about it, is the use of crude is not only for fueling. You can use it for plastics. I'm involved in the pharmaceutical industry, and I know we still use a lot of it for that. With respect to the diaspora, I am myself, until recently, a member of the diaspora, and we always say we need the talents abroad to be used. The only thing I will say is that it is difficult for a country to use the talent abroad when it doesn't use the talent at home. So the general attitude generally is that whether you are diaspora or you are here, as long as you are a Nigerian and you are available to be used in Nigeria to contribute, will create an environment in which, one, it is not risky for your career to join the public service. Two, you can make a decent living. You don't have to lose too much to be able to work in this public service. So we need to create a purchasing power parity for public institutions. You cannot, I have friends who work overseas who would like to work in Nigeria. I always mention Frank Bello. He can take 10% salary cut, 20% salary cut, 50% salary cut, but he will not take 99.999% salary cut because that's the implication of what. So they will be coming to work almost like charity people, charitable organizations. But we need to do two things to our economy. One, we need to have purchasing power parity, and we need to create stability to our currency so that people can make honest living. Because one of the reasons why I'm joining government at the age of 51, why I didn't join government at the age of 21 when I had the opportunity, was that I'm allergic to bribe and I'm allergic to poverty. So as president now, I should make it possible for you to survive on your income. Right now, even if you go to the State House, the president cannot be sure that his driver, his ADC, his secretary are living on their salaries. And that's what we need to correct. Then all the talent will come to Nigeria.
Thank you very much, Prince. Some very important issues raised there. Climate as an opportunity, energy, clean energy, green technology, and it's interesting to know that the presidential candidate is allergic to poverty and allergic to bribe. It will interest the audience to know that this year, the National Institute for Policy and Strategic Studies has been mandated by Mr. President to look into the theme of industrialization, energy security, and climate change in Nigeria. And so the question raised by Professor Adewole is very, very much in order, in keeping with what the presidential mandate is for this year. That said, let us quickly proceed to call on the next panelist in the person of Dr. Nanji Rindam Umo of the Department of Political Science in University of Jos. 2 minutes.
Okay, so my questions are, actually, I have a compendium of questions. Coming first from the educational...
Sorry, please speak a bit louder for the benefit of those online. Thank you.
I said, coming from the education sector, I want to understand, because part of your manifesto said that, that's a phrase in your party manifesto states that one of the reasons why the education sector is in crisis is because of underfunding, lack of priorities, and its unwillingness to be internationally competitive. So I wish that you shed some more light on that aspect, because I know that a lot of us do a lot of work in research, and most of these research findings are left hanging on the shelves. Nothing is really done about them. Then to your field as a lawyer, I want to understand your plan for the Constitution. I know that the Constitution places exploration activities in the hands of the federal government and the control, etc. But then the irony there is that like Nigeria has been an oil-based economy for decades, and then up till now, we know that some of these oil wells are in the hands of individuals. How do you want to fix this contradiction? Then thirdly, Nigeria is blessed with a lot of resources across all the geopolitical zones. So I want to understand how you plan to harness the resources in your diversification plan for the economy.
And then we know that last year, within 4 months, Nigeria's number of multidimensionally poor people grew from 89.4% to 89.4 million people to 133 million people. So the poverty levels are rising. We know that Nigeria has one of the biggest slums in the world. There are so many people out on the streets. It has the highest number of out-of-school children. How do you intend to fix this? And then what happens to the educational sector again back there, because the universities are becoming overwhelmed. Everybody is rooting to go to the university because other vocational institutions have failed. So how do you intend to fix this? And then health tourism. Okay, and I think that is basically that for now. Thank you.
Thank you. Go ahead, President.
Okay, thank you, Prof. The first thing is that education, our attitude is this, and that part of our manifesto is not the part where we are promising anything. It's the part where we're recognizing the reality on ground. My parents, my uncles, when they went to university, they had people from all over the world coming to school with them. Even when I was at IFE, studying law, I had people from Botswana, Zimbabwe, and whatever. Now, I doubt if any university has 1% foreign student. The competitiveness of your university is not, you cannot deny it. You cannot raise your voice and lose your temper, because you are ranked globally. First, you must have curriculum discipline. You must be able to exhaust your curriculum, which means that you must have control over your calendar. You must also have discipline in terms of the structure of your teaching protocols. So if you produce a medical doctor, all over the world, people must see them as medical doctors. If you produce lawyers, I employ lawyers. With due respect, my set wasn't Kayode Short set. But when I receive lawyers, I receive them like laymen. And then they start training in the law in my law office. And many people who employ people say so. So that's what we recognize there. And the challenge of that is that there's no talisman. What you need to do is to start afresh, mentally. Invest in the university, reconstitute the university, enlarge the capacity to admit more people, also to teach those who are there properly, including the welfare of the students. The students, I don't see under an SDP government where it should be optional for an undergraduate whether he wants to stay on campus or not. It should not be because we didn't invest in it. Secondly, there must be 99% attendance before you can graduate. That way, we have to give you accommodation on campus. And there should be a maximum of 2 or 3 in a room. Ideally, it should be 2. So this massive investment needs to be made. If you don't make them, you will not change the situation. And the lecturers have to be comfortable that their income is capable of making them to be in upper middle class, which is where they belong. Secondly, that they have security of tenure, and that they have peer-to-peer. They are able to do research at the same rate as their colleague overseas, and when they go out, they don't look obsolete. When I was living in Ife, the newest journal was 1984. So, for God's sake, that is what we are trying to change, and we must be decisive about it. Whereas for the Constitution, my plan for the Constitution is to obey it. I don't have any other plan. If the National Assembly wants to amend it, do whatever, I will support them. But my duty is to obey. This Constitution we have suffers disobedience. That's where the problem lies. With respect to the exploration, yes, it is in the exclusive list. What we can do is to take most things that are in the exclusive list, take them to the concurrent list. Because when these items are in the concurrent list, the federal government still has what we call cover the field. For example, education is concurrent, but federal law will supersede a state law. So it was a big mistake to put all of them in the exclusive list. They should be in concurrent. And then the notion that Nigeria is an oil-based economy, it is not. Nigeria is a crude oil selling country. We are not an oil-based economy. We don't touch oil up to 1%. We don't refine, we don't do anything. So we're not an oil-based economy. We're just a country adjacent to oil fields in the deep sea. And we sign contract licensing people to come and exploit them. So if Nigeria was an oil-based country, it would be like Texas, where I practiced for many years. It would be like California, and it would be like Qatar. So that is where we are going to go to. With respect to diversification is not the problem. We've been talking about it. It is to create an environment in which somebody can invest and get a legitimate return, which means you need to build infrastructure. Electricity, that's why we keep emphasizing electricity, railroad, and all of that. I have investment in Nigeria, and the logistic of managing them is a problem. So those are the areas we need to invest in it. And with the poverty, the people who are poor in Nigeria are not poor because God caused them. They are poor because they are victims of robbery. The entire government has been set up to rob them. And if you keep robbing people for 60 years, why are you now surprised that they are poor? So we should stop robbing the people. We should make sure that we use their money for their welfare, as stated in the Constitution. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Prince. You have told us about the need for constitutional compliance, massive investments in education, and ensuring that an enabling environment is created for Nigerians not to be poor, but to thrive and be able to create wealth. I will now call on the last panelist, who is one of us here on secondment from the Central Bank of Nigeria. He is the Chief Operating Officer of the Center for Financial Economics at NIPSS, in the person of Dr. Nathaniel Urama. Straight to the point, 2 minutes, please.
Okay, thank you so much. Yeah.
If somebody is from Central Bank, they should talk as long as possible.
Thank you for that. All right. Exactly. Please permit me to welcome the presidential candidates to this NIPSS, being the only NIPSS staff among the panelists. I welcome you for this. Yes, I think it's a great honor to have you here. I went through the party manifesto, and I must confess it's a good one. It's a heartwarming. Yeah. But what the concern we are having is that we've been hearing this good news for so long. So many people have came, promised heaven and hell, but at the end, the implementation is the issue. So most of my questions here will hinge on how we're going to achieve what we have said we're going to achieve. For instance, you're talking about saying farewell to poverty through free education, adequate nutrition, medical care. You even went ahead to say you're going to provide 1,000 units of housing in each state every year within the first 4 years. My question is, how are we going to finance this? Where will the funding come from? We all know that the federal government is having a very poor fiscal space currently. The approved 2023 budget, 28.82 trillion. We have only a revenue of 11.05 trillion, leading to a debt of over 10 trillion. And we all know the effect of debt and debt servicing that the country is already facing. How are we going to finance all these investments in education, in housing, in nutrition, without stifling the private sector? That's my number one question. Number two is a follow-up from that number one. You're talking about this, that your government will provide 30 million jobs within the first 18 months in office. And I was wondering, how will this come? We know that the government parastatals are already overemployed. So many idle workers are there. That is why they are having a very mega salary, which is affecting their social welfare. Now, we also know about the poor business environment in the country. So many factories are leaving the country. So within 18 months, how are you going to tackle this to create this employment without increasing the number of government employees? Because that actually is not an option. Then number three, it would be unfair for us to finish this without discussing the critical issue on board, which is the issue of subsidy. So how are we going to tackle this subsidy issue, knowing the social unrest that is likely to create? Thank you.
Thank you. Prince, before you go ahead to address that question, I would just like to highlight the fact that this time around, it's about the specifics in terms of modalities for implementation. And in the National Institute, we pride ourselves with an approach that is quite unique, which is going beyond prescriptions and recommendations to address implementation strategies. And I'm sure the ears of the general public are tweaked to hear just how you expect to deliver on some of these issues. Thank you very much. You have 5 minutes.
Thank you. If I can deliver all these ideas in 5 minutes, I should be able to create jobs in 18 months. Number one, revenue. The government has lost its treasury. There is no treasury officer. Go around, the government has lost its treasury. The government is not collecting its revenue. I've done the calculation and I've said it many times. And those who are in government can come and government is collecting about 7% of what it's supposed to collect. The rest, they farmed out in different places. How will I be surprised that you are hoping to collect 11-point-something trillion when you have given waivers over 17 trillion away? So you have sacred cows that you don't want to collect revenue from. So that is the problem. If you go to the maritime economy, right from pilotage into Nigeria, all this will be farmed out to people who sponsor politicians. So somebody can sit down in his house, he has no navy, he has nothing, but he's collecting a huge amount of money, and the navy is being asked to follow him. So all of those areas, the ports between Badagry and Rio de Rey, we are supposed to have minimum of 18 ports, built without asking us for money. I myself, forget about being president, I can bring, I believe, 4 corporations to build entreports. But these things have been concession to people. And they are trying to create monopoly for certain people. So that's the reason why the government is short of revenue. A budget of 21 trillion at today's value for 210 million people is an official signature of poverty. Lagos alone should be able to give you 21 trillion, just Lagos alone. So the problem is that the government, the way they cannot capture the territory of Nigeria and secure it, the same way they cannot capture the revenue. Even Minister of Interior alone should be able to fund this budget. So I've advised government on many occasions. So I realized that every revenue point you recognize, somebody goes to block it. So that is why there's more money in politics than there is in government. So we will increase the revenue sharply, and you will see that. On the issue of job creation is not rocket science. You create works. The problem with the budget, this is the only country that says building railway. There are no railway workers, no railway families. Senator Obai is a railway boy. He wouldn't have gone to school except his father worked for the Nigerian Railway. And he trained him, became a first class in political science. So where are the railway families? So the problem in the government is that they're not creating works. Look at the Civil War. I know many members of my family who became important people because they joined the army during the Civil War. We're having a big war going on here. They are buying photographers' drone and claiming they are buying Raptor drone and throwing away money. So they are not even recruiting enough boots on the ground. Many of the battalions don't have the strength at all. So we are not recruiting. So when you start, look at all the potholes on our roads. If you are planting ginger in Southern Kaduna alone, you will employ 2 million people, and you will still not be able to exhaust that. I'm a farmer. I know the crude oil is being sold for $100, whatever it is now. I have never sold my palm oil less than $600 per barrel. And if I keep farming every day of my life, I will not meet 1% of the world demand for palm oil. So this is where you create the employment. It's not about getting people into government. I know that people who are in government are always afraid. When we say we are creating employment, they think, so 25,000 permanent secretary, 10,000 more directors, they come and take my job. No. What we are saying is that when you create a new stream in the economy, you are going to, for example, if the refinery had been working, you will, all those families around Kaduna, around Warri, around Eleme, they are families that arose from working in refineries. So these are institutions you need to wake up. And when we calculated this, about 32 million jobs. But in order not to be rough, we said 30 because 30 is easier to remember. So these jobs will come. And these are jobs of investment, not just getting people into the government. On the issue of subsidy, the subsidy is a boogeyman because it's like a trick question. If you say, I'm going to remove subsidy, then Labour Congress and it will bring pitchforks to deal with you. What is killing what they call subsidy is fraud. There is nobody consuming 70 million liters a day anywhere. And luckily you are originally from Central Bank. Central Bank itself discovered that a lot of those claims are bogus. A ship that has never entered West Africa in the last 7 years, you will find them making claim that it landed at Atlas Cove. So if we remove the corruption, the cost will come down. Secondly, if we take our refineries from being a cost center, which it is now, and I can do an O&M contract, it becomes a profit center. And if I do modular refinery with some crackers, nobody will worry. And lastly, if you come to my compound now, you will see solar panel motorcycle, solar panel powered buses, solar powered everything. If you have gas powered and solar powered buses all over cities in Nigeria, and every civil servant only needs the ID card to tap and enter the bus, nobody will worry about the price of petrol. After all, diesel that we are using to carry our food, carry everything, is deregulated, and nobody has died. Kerosene, which the poor people use to ignite firewood, is deregulated, nobody has died. The most important thing is that we must stop that fraud, which is where they are financing all these billboards you see for politics. It's coming from subsidy money.
Thank you very much, Prince Adebayo. He has laid out in practical terms some of the steps and strategies he intends to take to address some of the other issues that had been raised. Now we will proceed to engage the audience, and this is how we will go about it. We will take 7 questions, and each person has 30 seconds, I beg your pardon, 30 seconds to quickly address the question. That means you must go straight to the point. No preambles, no introductions, straight to your question. By show of hands, you will please address yourself to the presidential candidate and be very, very specific as to what issue you want to raise. Please do raise your voice. There will be somebody to give you the mic if you are called upon. So, that said, if you have questions, please. Okay. Anybody on question? And people online as well, please. You can indicate by show of hands. We will take people online separately. We'll probably take 3 people from online and then take 7 from the audience. Thereafter, the presidential candidate will have, maybe we'll take 2 questions. He will have 2 minutes to address them, and so that we can have a maximum of 20-minute engagement. Thank you very much. So, over to you. And please, for those of you in the control room, point out those who are online. Yes, the gentleman in the center. You have 30 seconds maximum.
Good afternoon to you all. I'm asking the presidential candidate, what provisions have you for the people with disability?
Thank you very much. Straight and direct. Next question. Yes? Okay, sorry. Somebody should give her the mic. She doesn't have a mic.
Okay.
My question is this. What is happening currently with the cashless policy and the change of currency? It's making so many go crazy. What is your plan
in terms of technology. The network have not worked, transfers have been difficult, and there's no cash. We say we are on 4G, we are going to 5G, but the equipment, from what I heard last year, we are still using 3G.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We'll take one more question, and then the presidential candidate will answer. We have 3 online, so let's quickly take. Yes, the gentleman at the back. Please, Abdullahi and Professor Abolade stand. Abdullahi. Sorry, can't see the surname from
Okay.
here. Stand by.
Straight to the
Go
point. Sir, how do you intend to tackle the agitations going on within the country? Different people trying to break up from the country. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Since we took 3 questions, we'll give you 3 minutes, sir.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
First, people with disability. The first thing we need to is to remove the stigma. Everybody is with disability. That's why the professor here could not read the name of the person on the screen. But with the assistance of glasses, she was able to read 2 out of 3. But without glasses, then she would have serious disability. So people with disability should understand that it is the job of the society to give you ability within that disability. And I had a classmate who was extremely brilliant. He was fantastically brilliant. But when we got to law school, he had to do a rewrite of his exam. But what made the matter very painful to him was that another friend of ours, Linus, who was born blind, actually passed the bar. So the person who was born blind passed the law school, and my friend, who's a very brilliant student, had to rewrite one exam. So it's possible for a society to invest in anyone, whatever their disability is, to ensure that so if there's no stigma, if there's investment, our government, what we want to do is that the life of people without disability is tough in Nigeria because the life of people with ability is also tough. So when you make life easier for everybody, and then you don't pay special emphasis, for example, if we don't pay teachers, where are you going to have people? You now say, okay, let's have special teacher for people who are blind or who have other difficulty learning. So if you have full faculty and you are not able to get a job, how do we deal with people who have mental health challenges? So those are the investments we need to make. And that's why I say if you stick to chapter 2 of the Constitution, it says that nobody should be discriminated against in Nigeria by virtue of circumstances of their birth or the condition or disability. So this is what we are going to do. I'm sorry, these short minutes are not enough to go into the how and how, but be sure that we understand that this is what we need to do. And what has happened to us with respect to Paralympics has shown to us that while our people fail the Olympics, while they fail World Cup, our brothers and sisters who are in the Paralympics, they are always winning. So maybe God wants us to pay attention to that. The next question has to do with dealing with people who, the issue of this policy, well, it's not a policy, this exercise. What is happening is that we are cashless because the policy is senseless. We have changed money in Nigeria. The central bank is not a new institution. In 73, under Adewole, Adewole and Clement, we changed from the pound to the naira. Musicians were singing about it. Everybody knew about it. We are changing the money. It took time. Secondly, we changed in 1984. That one, soldiers were flogging everybody. So the same people who flog us, now are the one flogging us again. So that one was poorly managed. People were queuing up, committing suicide. But under Obasanjo and Soludo, we changed from paper to polymer. People did not even notice. And interestingly, for many years, I've been a lawyer to currency printers. For many, if you study cases on currency printing all over the world, you will see my name in many cases. So you will see that it's very easy. In England now, they want to change from the queen head to the king head. They have 2 years to make the change. it's an error, and I hope it won't be there by the time we come. But if it's still there, we'll deal with it decisively. You use your money for as long as you want, until we're able to recover it from you, not by force. And then on the issue of 3G, usually I get no Gs. I don't know how you manage to get 1G. Most of the time I get no Gs at all. It's because the NCC is not reinvesting the money. Each time you make a call, some money goes for back infrastructure. That money is just being shared, it's not being used. If you go to NIPSS, you see a lot of people who are in politics, they go to NIPSS to collect money there. This money that's supposed to be used to reinvest, we will make sure we support the technology with it. Then the issue, the last one has to do with people complaining Nigeria, some say they're going to break away. Nigerians, nobody's breaking away, I can guarantee you that. But people have many ways by which they express disgust against injustice. And that is why the president is a head of state. I, as a head of state, everybody will have a sense of belonging. And justice is what we need to do in this country. There's a lot of injustice. Ethnic injustice, religious, interreligious injustice, gender injustice, even generational injustice. Those who went to university very well, like DG, who didn't pay money, their professors now asking for other people to come and pay. That's generational injustice. So all these injustices are the things we need to address. If we address them, no Nigerian wants to go anywhere. I can guarantee you that.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. We have spent 8 minutes out of our 20 minutes. And so we will now go to those online. I have 4 hands showing. We will take all 4 of them quickly. But I was expecting the presidential candidate, having pointed out my disability, to ask or to make a suggestion as to why professors in Nigeria are not paid disability allowance for so much reading that we do. So that said, let me call on Abdullahi, the first person I'm seeing. Please unmute yourself. You have 30 seconds to quickly put your question to the presidential candidate. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Good afternoon, all. Prince, how would you address this issue of constant strike between lecturers and the government as it affects our youth? Thank you very much.
Thank you for being straight to the point. Professor Abolade Adeniyi.
Very much.
We can't hear you. Please unmute yourself.
I hope you can hear me now.
Yes, please, quickly. 30 seconds.
Thank you. This one is about the economy generally, but especially the exchange rates. We all know that currently nobody in business is comfortable about the unstable nature of the exchange rate. So I just want to ask the presidential candidate, how do you want to go about achieving a stable exchange rate for businessmen and others so that they can plan their businesses ahead and be sure that there will be no disruption? Thank you very much.
Thank you, Prof. Let me quickly take a last question because we have 3 more. Ralph Bello. Ralph Bello, 30 seconds.
Yeah, Mr. President, how do you devalue devolution of power to ensure the implementation of the Chapter 2 within the states and local governments? Thank you, sir.
Interesting question. We dealt with that last year in NIPSS, and it will be interesting to hear what you have to say. Over to you, sir. You have 3 minutes.
The way to deal with it is ASU and government. Government is guilty. Full stop. All you need to look at is what ASU demanding. ASU is not demanding anything other than 3 things. 1, we want autonomy, and we all know what autonomy means for the university. And if you don't know, just remember that when DK was principal, then Vice Chancellor at Ibadan, Balewa was not telling him what to do. Balewa was not putting people in his government council for him. So you need to give university an autonomy. Let them there. Second, their remuneration. They just want living wages. Being a teacher should not condemn you to poverty. So if you look at their peers internationally and look at their peers domestically, a permanent secretary, a professor, an army general, they used to rank together at that time. So, and in some countries, it is even, I as president, will even be happy to have a professor earn more than me as president. So that's good pay. 3 is that you can't make them to be lying all the time. You are teaching chemistry, you cannot titrate. There's no lab. You are teaching any other thing, you cannot demonstrate. So people who have studied agriculture have never seen a cow before. So these are the things they are tired of lying. So if you put investment there, they will invest and make sure the facilities work, as well would the faces work. Exchange rate, there's no magic. As long as you are not looking for $1 to $1, we are looking at parity. Every effort was towards parity. No, look at stability. And the way to get stability is 1, get rid of the dual exchange rate. Because that dual exchange rate is dual criminality. Because you are incentivizing people who have connection to go and collect at official rate and go and sell to somebody else. So once you get out of the dual exchange rate, once you also take the government hand away from managing the forest, the CBN, forest will come in and you'll be stable. The same thing in Tanzania, Kenya, everywhere, whose economies are weaker than that of Lagos. But they have stability, we can achieve that without problems. Devolution is by incentivizing, because until the constitution is amended, I don't have control over governors, but I have influence over them. So through counterpart funding and using statutory transfers, I can ensure that they invest in the chapter 2 of the Constitution in the social sector. However, living by example is the scarcest commodity in Nigeria. Everybody preaches to the other. So the first thing I need to do is to make sure that as president, I invest in the social sector, and once they see it, others will follow along.
Thank you very much, sir. Let's quickly go to the last 3, and then I'll come back quickly and take 2 questions from the audience, and then we will round it up. So we have Adewole Ajayi. Please unmute yourself, and within 30 seconds, pose your question.
Yes, good afternoon, ma'am. My question is to how to use the area of youth unemployment in Nigeria, and what differently would this our presidential candidate do to harness the demographic dividend of this vibrant youth to put into positive use? Thank you.
Thank you. The next person is Maurice Iwu. 30 seconds, please. Maurice Iwu, could you please unmute yourself? Okay. If we can't get Maurice Iwu, I think the next person there is Ali Wakili. Please unmute yourself. 30 seconds, please.
Good afternoon. When you get there, which eventually you will, inshallah,
Amen.
don't you initiating a executive bill that will make politics a part-time job would be in order, so that we can save 1/4 of the budget make payment later. Productive.
Thank you very much. Maurice Iwu, are you there? If not, we go and we take Emeka Obi.
I have never to unmute, ma'am.
Okay, please
Can
go
you hear
ahead.
me?
Go ahead, 30 seconds.
Thank you. I have a very simple question. Since we have very impressive presentation, since we have very good ideas from the candidate, is it possible from his own campaign for the like minds in Nigerian political system to come together to be able to rescue the country? Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, Maurice. Maurice used to be here at the National Institute. We will now quickly pass on to the presidential candidate to respond within 3 minutes.
Well, let's start with the youth. The first gift a country can go to the youth is to give them a stable family that can feed them well. So we need, which means that as much as possible, we create employment for the parents, because most people want to take care of their youth at home first. Second is to engage the youth from school. That's why we had the universal primary education policy. So once the youth are kept in school, or in some vocational school as well, but by the time they get into young adult, they're already well equipped for society. Then the third is to get them gainfully engaged. Our plan is basically that, one, we not only deal with the university, we expand all avenues. In fact, there's an association called NATA, automobile mechanic and all of that. We're engaging with them, we're engaging with all skill sector to see that we standardize their training, so that if you want to be a vulcanizer or a plumber, there are people in England who never went past high school, but they are fantastic plumbers. So things like that, we train across the board. I'll keep them engaged. There's no other magic than that. But it requires spending government money on the people, which is what politicians are not very happy to do. On the issue of part-time, it is by personal example. I made a policy promise that first, I will not earn a salary as president. And even any public office I hold, from this age, I'm okay. I don't need to pro bono. And I've done many things for the government. I'm happy you're from Central Bank. I've done a very important case for the Central Bank of Nigeria where they evaluated my fees to maybe $20-something million. I said, no, I don't. Maybe you can give me national honor if you can have it. I can work for the public. So, and my party had an engagement with me. You mean you won't pay anybody? I said, look, my first priority goes to those people who want to serve as ministers and who are okay, they don't want to earn salary. So that way, my national secretary, at the age of 39, he was the road safety corps marshal at that time. I don't think he needs government money anymore. So we have many people around who can work like that. So if you leave a personal example, others will also volunteer. But what kills government is not the salary, it is the stealing. So let us understand that. Now, the issue of coming together, there are two things I can say on that. Out of 18 of us running, only one will be president. So there's nothing to be proud about in that. You have to be humble. It's not an ego issue. However, coming together to form a cooperative and a strong coalition to rescue the people is different from forming a conspiracy to grab power. Well, all of us just come together, we don't agree on anything. Okay, you make me minister, you make me this, and then you come. That's what happened in 2015. And you can see what Nigerians call katakata that has followed now. So we won't do that.
Thank you very much, sir. Time up. Let me quickly, before I jump into the audience to take two questions, let me quickly apologize. Earlier I had said that Maurice Iwu was formerly of NIPSS. It's not the Maurice Iwu of NIPSS. So if you are still there with us online, sir, I apologize. Now let me take a question from the man in the red and white cap. You had put up your hand. You have 30 seconds to quickly pose your question. The man in the black and white cap.
Good afternoon, our president-to-be. My question is, as a youth, students at different institutions will be deprived from serving the country due to the strike that lingered for almost 2 years in Nigeria. What plans do you have, if elected, for the students of our advanced institution? Thank you.
Thank you. I'll take one more question, last but not the least. We haven't had a woman ask a question yet, have we? So I'm giving this to the women. Is there any woman here who is a citizen of Nigeria, committed to Nigeria, that would like to ask a question? Let's have the lady in the front. Thank you. Please give her the mic, 30 seconds.
Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for your service, Your Excellency. The question I have is, what would you, I've asked this question before, what are you willing to lay your life down for to ensure that Nigeria succeeds? Everyone is scared to do what is right. Everyone is scared to ensure that things are done properly. What fears do you have, and what fears do you not have? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Prince?
Okay, with respect to the students, the first thing to do is to make sure there are no more strikes. Because I suspect that even some strikes are on the way now. The way the government is gloating, how they dealt with ASU, not paying them enough money and all of that. So the strike may come back. So the first thing to do is to make sure no more strikes. Second is to make sure that we catch up with the past. And for anything that arose from the consequence of the strike, for example, people missing their NYSC service and all of that, every institution will take cognizance of that period. And I also would let the youth know that it is not only through NYSC that you can serve the country. I think all youths under our government, every youth will be of service to this country, both civil, military, administrative, in every way. They will serve the country. Now, with respect to Nigeria is a country that is short of heroes. And to be a hero doesn't mean you have to jump from Aso Rock to the ground and immolate yourself. It means that everything that one does, the country must come first. And that when it comes to taking decisions, the country comes as number one. No friend, no foe. And that you don't think about your survival. In any case, the life expectancy of Nigerians is quite low at this point. I'm older than my father. My father died at 36. So I think at this point, the God has preserved one's life to this point means that he's preserving it for a purpose. And if one wants to rescue Nigeria from the quagmire we have put ourselves in, that leader has to be fearless. Not that he has to be reckless, but he has to be fearless. He should not worry about what happens to me. Am I going to win the election or not? That's why as we are contesting, we don't say things that make people happy. We say things that are true and we can do. And when we are taking decisions, we don't care who is going to complain. We care whether this thing is in the interest of the public. And these are the things that we all have consensus. Nigerians know what is right. Even those who are there now, they know what is right. The courage to do what is right and pay the price for that courage is what is missing. And that's what we must provide.
Excellent. Thank you very much, sir. Well, there you have it, our distinguished audience, panelists, and members of the Nigerian public. The presidential candidate of the Social Democratic Party of Nigeria has laid out for us today his vision, his mission, his mandate, and that of the party. He has been able to address critical issues uppermost in the minds of Nigerians and specifically laid out his social democratic principles in terms of addressing major sectoral priority areas for the Nigerian nation. I would just want to ask him one final word. As we count down to the 2023 elections, what parting word would you want to leave with the Nigerian electorate in helping them to make their decision?
Thank you.
1 minute, sir.
If I also have your indulgence for extra 30 seconds to deal with the issue of debt and deficit, so that, because it's very vital. The problem with deficit financing is the gap between revenue and expenditure. And there are three problems there, which we deal with it. One is that they're not capturing revenue correctly. Secondly, there's indiscipline in procurement. And thirdly, the central bank has failed to be independent to handle the monetary side. So it's making a lot of monetary intervention, in fact, making fiscal-like intervention in the name of monetary policy. So in our time, we'll deal with that. And the issue of the debt, relative to our GDP, relative to the revenue we can generate, I think if I amortize the debt, we will be able to manage the debt very well, and there will be no more deficit finance along that line. I think I will do 3 consecutive balanced budget, and that will help the economy. Well, the parting word for Nigeria is that there is nothing magical about where we found ourselves. We drove ourselves to this destination where we are. This is not the destination our founding father said we should have driven to, but we drove ourselves here because this is the easy way to come, which is everybody comes to Nigeria with a sense of entitlement. Everybody wants the country to work for them. People don't want to work for the country. So for the voter, if you have been complaining that your country is mismanaged, politicians are not good, this is your chance now to form a government. Therefore, let your value reflect in the way you vote. So if you are voting based on what you are listening, because it is good to have your PVC, but it's on the assumption that you have sense. Before you can get PVC, you have to have sense first, to know what are the issues, so that you don't use your PVC to imprison yourself. So I believe that you must have an open mind, forget about tribe, religion, ethnicity, and all of that. Forget about all the decoration and the gifts you are collecting, T-shirt and all of that. Listen to the issue and interrogate your own life and say, what these people are saying, does it answer to my daily experience in Nigeria? And am I tired of these problems? Then, when the election comes, you vote for the white horse, vote for the SDP, and you will reap the dividend of democracy. Thank you.
I think he deserves a resounding hand of applause. So there you have it, Prince Adewole Ebenezer Adebayo, the presidential candidate of the Social Democratic Party, has laid out his plans for the nation, and I wish on behalf of the Director General of the National Institute and the NIPSS community to extend this same invitation to other presidential candidates to do likewise and avail yourselves of this National Institute interaction platform with presidential candidates and tell Nigerians who you are, what you want to do, and why Nigerians should support you. Thank you very much. I will now hand over to the MC.
Thank you very much for that eloquent moderating, Professor Fumi Paramala. Please, a round of applause for her. The Director General and your management team, our distinguished guests, our invited guests both here and online, we have come to the end of the interactive session. Thank you for your patience and your participation. Before we take the national anthem, may I invite Dr. Shola Adeyanju, MNI, to give a vote of thanks. Thank you.
Thank you very much, the MC. There is no doubt that we've had a very groundbreaking event here today. Today, I say history is being made at the National Institute. The National Institute has decided to create this platform as a way of furthering democracy by encouraging participation and inclusivity. And I think that is what we have tried to do here. Let me especially thank the presidential candidate of the Social Democratic Party for availing himself the opportunity to use our platform. I think this is a very remarkable one. Rather than us running to Chatham House, you have decided to honor our invitation. We want to thank you specially for that. Let me also thank the Director General of the National Institute for his foresight in making this platform possible. You agree with me, this is the first time we're doing this. I cannot but thank the management team, from the Secretary Director of Administration to the Director of Studies, who doubles as the moderator for this event, and the Director of Research, with all management staff of the National Institute. I would like to thank our team of experts who have taken their time. I was listening to them, and you could see the level of work they have done to make sure that we touch on virtually all interesting areas. We want to believe that most of the areas we have touched are those kind of things that Nigerians want to listen to, that the electorates want to know. I want to thank you all for taking your time to honor the invitation of the National Institute. Thank you very much. group of experts. Let me also thank those who join us online. It is because of Nigerian interest that they have been able to join us. I learned over 60 people joined us online, and I think that is very commendable. We want to thank you for your patriotism and for showing interest in Nigerian cause. Also, let me thank the staff of the National Institute and those of the Social Democratic Party who work tirelessly around the clock to make sure that today's event is a success. There is no doubt that we have been doing a lot of ding-dong front and back before this is made possible. I want to thank you all. And finally, I want to re-emphasize what the moderator, Professor Fumi Paramalan, said. By opening this platform to other political parties to come around, let's engage them. Let Nigerians listen to them. Let them stop running to Chatham House. Let NIPSS be our own house where we all can be proud of. And I think this will be a good beginning for the Nigerian state. Finally, let me thank the media, those who have come to cover this event. I want to thank you very specially. And we want you to propagate this further than where we are, so that every nooks and crannies of Nigeria will be involved in making Nigeria move forward. Thank you all, and God bless.
Thank you, Dr. Shola Adeyenju. We shall now rise for the national anthem.
You should have given his people